Hello everyone. So in this video, I'm actually going to tell you something about that. You might have seen yesterday. The president of USA has imposed 25% more tariffs on the Indian exports. So what are the effects that India is going to face after this 25% additional secondary sanction? So the number one reason is that there are organizations which are suggesting that this tariffs that have been imposed by the president of USA, it could actually, it could become unviable for the exports of India. It could become unviable, and that due to that, it could actually impact the India's GDPs even worse than what we are actually expecting it to be from the coming first quarter of 2026. So there are some sectors which I wanted to talk about, that which are deeply affected by these tariffs. So the number one, if you will talk about the textile industry of India, which are the biggest exporters, there 50 to 70% of revenue comes from exporting their textile fabrics to USA. The name of those companies are Gokaldas, Indocount, Wellspun Living, KPR Mills. These are some of the big textile companies of India whose 50 to 60% revenue comes from the US. But what happening is that after the tariff that has been imposed by the US president, these companies have going to face difficulties in upcoming the first quarter of 2026. And because the tariffs are going to be imposed on India after 21 days. Right now it has not been imposed. Right now it is still under the process, and the foreign ministry of India and US, they are trying their best to make a deal so that the tariff this trade this tariff will not imposed, because it could actually hurt zero point 0.6 to 0. There are sources, there are big like Morgan Stanley and big organization which are suggesting that after this 50% additional tariff, the India's GDP could be affected by zero point 0.6 to 0.8%, which is a heavy blow to us, because our annual um, our annual export to US is close to $80 billion, something like that, and it constitutes around the this tariffs that are being imposed on us, which means that we can actually impact the zero point 0.6 to 0.7% of India's economy. And due to that, what is happening right now, there is a lot of panic in the Indian current currencies. There is a lot of pressure on the Indian currency as well, and that is why you might see in the next like 2 3 months or 4 months, the RBI would go for foreign investors and foreign intervention to stabilize the Indian currency, because we might lose the value of Indian currency if the export will hurt the India's GDP. Because if the GDP will go down, the Indian currency will go down, and you need foreign investors to pump money in India's economy to stabilize the Indian currency. So you might see in the next like 1 or 2 months, the RBI would go to the foreign intervention to stabilize the Indian currency. Right now, what is happening? I will give you a short. Summary of whatever is happening around the thing is that there are certain sectors which are completely affected. There are certain sections which are like mediocrely affected. There are certain sections which are not affected. So the sectors which are not affected are like the service and IT sector of the US, which are like the Indian based engineers, who have like US clients. They have, there is nothing between that sector. Then there is a sector called mobile and semiconductor sector, which is India is one of the biggest exporter of electronic gadgets to US. And that's why the US have not have made an exception regarding regarding the electronic gadgets and phone and automated things. And now there are sectors which are deeply affected. So the US is right now, what it is actually wanting from India is that it wants the heavy influence on the agriculture and dairy department of India. And that is why it is not possible for the Indian government, to give like direct influence of agriculture and dairy sector of this country to the US, because then the farmers and the dairy farmers of this country, they might lose a lot of money as well. So in this video, I try to explain you that what are the sectors that are mediocrely affected, that are highly affected, and RBI could go for foreign intervention to stabilize the Indian economy, because from the first or second quarter of the 2026, our GDP could drop by 0.6 to 0.8%. So now in the next video, I will also explain it more than that. Thank you so much for watching. Take care.